Hi everyone, it's Emma again, and I'm joined by Judy, and we're going to be talking about maths. But today we're going to be talking about maths for those who really struggle with it. We're going to be focusing on our teens who hate maths, who it's just a really difficult subject. Judy, can you identify some of the warning signs parents should be looking out for earlier on that can be a sign of problems ahead?
Ooh, I think a child getting stressed about maths is quite a good concept, quite a good kind of oh, I forgot the word. Sorry, I'll start again, Emma.
Okay.
Sorry, do you want to ask the question again?
It's
Um,
okay, I can edit it out when I stop talking.
okay, yeah. So I think yeah, a sign is that children are getting stressed about the subject. It's not coming easily to them. They're struggling with sort of the abstract concepts as well. Those problems that have got several steps to them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
I think that idea of the stress about maths is an interesting one. And it can be the part they're difficult because there's actually a neurological condition called maths anxiety. And that it's a real problem in it, so that those problems can trigger that anxiety. And sometimes the problems that they have with maths aren't as big as they think they are. So I think if you've got that, that's a really important one to be aware of. We hear a lot about dyslexia as a in in different places, different circles. I don't think we hear as much about dyscalculia. What are the signs of dyscalculia?
I'm not an expert in this area, but if they're just struggling with maths and they're struggling even in daily life with sort of things like managing money and
Mhm,
managing change and managing their time, they might seem like a disorganized person,
mhm.
um, but it could be a sign of dyscalculia.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's three learning challenges that can play into maths. There is dyslexia, which we often associate purely as a problem with reading and writing. And the problem is this: if you've got a dyslexic child, that can affect their maths, and it might not be that they've got dyscalculia. So I think a lot of families, their child is, if they're dyslexic, they can automatically assume that their math struggles are dyscalculia. That's not always the case because with dyslexia comes a lot of working memory problems. And some of those skills of pattern recognition, so when you're recognizing shape, is obviously applicable in maths. So there's dyslexia can manifest as a lot of maths issues as well as things as well, like learning times tables, learning the rules for concepts and how and terminology. All this plays into to maths as well. Dyspraxia is one I hadn't been so much aware of as being a maths problem, but some children who have got maths issues, the problem isn't dyslexia, it's not dyscalculia, it's dyspraxia, and again, that's to do with ordering and like being if you've got a child who's constantly turning things the wrong way round, um, that can be dyspraxia. So if you've got a dyspraxic child, that is something to be aware of with their maths. And then dyscalculia is actually more rare than dyslexia. So if you think it's dyscalculia, look at the other two first. Dyscalculia can have profound implications if your child really struggles with the concept of number. I can't remember the name of it. There's an idea that if you were to look at a group of objects on a screen, like dots on a screen, you'd be able, if you had like four dots on a screen, you'd be able to say, oh, there's four dots on the screen without counting them. Um, the average person can go up to about six, maybe seven, to just eyeball and say, oh, there's six things there. Seven's a bit more of a challenge. A dyscalculic child will struggle even with two. They'll have to go one, two to count them. And there's a very young children will still count one, two, but as they get older, there's this ability to just look and see, oh, there's so many objects. That is a big red flag for dyscalculia. Also, the number, like being able to understand how numbers order. If you've got a child who, if you give them like a section of numbers and there's numbers missing and they struggle to put in the missing numbers like 13, 14, miss out 15, miss out 16, then 17, 18, and they can't get those middle numbers. It's a struggle for them. That is a big red flag for dyscalculia. So there are these big learning challenges, and there can be all of these can obviously play in with other learning difficulties or differences like ADHD, ASD, or type presentations. So there's lots of nuance, and it can be difficult to tease it all apart. But that recognition of being able to recognize that there can be a problem and looking for those signs early on. If you have a child struggling with maths, what are some of the strategies that can help, Judy?
Obviously, there's lots of practice, so your child might not want to do lots of practice. That's going to help. I think you staying calm when you're helping them.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes it can be very frustrating when maths comes easily to you as a parent,
Yeah.
but not to your child to kind of relate to these kind of very, which may appear very simple struggles for you that they're having. Why can't they just get it, you know? So just staying calm and helping them. I think trying to take these abstract concepts and make them
Hmm.
um, more concrete. So visualize them. So drawing fractions down um, as pictures, as cakes and pizzas and things like that can take some of the stress and just help their head to get around these
Yeah.
ideas. I think also just giving them a really sound basis in adding, subtracting, and mental arithmetic, times tables. I'm thinking
Hmm.
if that's like learning them by rote with songs is a really good idea, so that
Oh,
when they come to that problem that's got several steps to it, if they know quickly, I don't know, 6 times 7, then that's going to make the problem seem less overwhelming for them. So I've got a special needs son who's actually very good at that, just because he's listened to so many songs. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, and just having those resources as well, like the
yeah.
tens and units that they can
Oh,
handle and touch, and the clock that they can
mhm,
move around when they're younger. Obviously, as they get older, they're
mhm,
going to need less of those things. But
mhm. That's really, yeah, that's excellent. I think especially for if you've got a dyslexic child, those trying to make maths more visual,
yeah,
having the manipulatives really do help. One of the things I use, because I've got a son who's dyslexic, and when we were learning fractions, because when you come to that, when you start to manipulate fractions, there's lots of other skills. You're pulling in your times tables and all these other skills. And the multiple skills in one concept began to become overwhelming. So one of the things I did at that stage was I would give him a times table chart so he could concentrate and understand what a fraction was and how it was how to what an equivalent fraction was, how to simplify a fraction, how to add or subtract fractions. But he wasn't getting bogged down in the times tables, and that helped. That was a helpful
yeah,
tool at that time when he was still learning. That was obviously before he was kind of doing teens level maths or KS2 maths. But all these are really good strategies to put in place. Um, for
yeah. And I just think
family,
even
oh,
sorry.
go for it.
I was gonna say, even if you have to bring in a calculator for the more
Mhm.
tricky subjects, I mean, it may go against what you think, like, but they can do the number crunching on the calculator,
Mhm.
and they just got to focus on the problem solving instead of both at the same time can be quite stressful.
Yeah. We've also done sometimes a huge big page of maths. Doing it because if you've got a child who is struggling, their brains will tire before
Yeah,
a child who it comes more naturally to. So keeping it kind of less, shortening a lesson, concentrating what they can do, going at that slower pace, which can feel it can bring a bit of anxiety to us as parents if we're thinking, oh, they need to be they can't fall behind, but behind for them is different from behind for another child, and that feeling confident to be really just let's be slow at this and not push it too hard because I think that's where a lot of the anxiety can then start to creep in. Um, Families who are not familiar with functional skills maths, can you explain what it is?
Um, yeah, so it's a more practical maths qualification. So the questions in it are going to seem a bit more everyday and a bit more relating to reality and not so abstract. So there's some like kind of trade and DIY style questions and problems in there. So it's good for a student who's struggling with those abstract concepts or just can't see the point. Why do I need to learn circle theorems or and therefore they're just really just demotivated and discouraged. They just can't see the point. So it's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
I think it's also important to understand that you might not be thinking about that when you're looking at your 13-year, 14-year-old who struggle with maths. You're thinking, oh, they're not going to need maths. They're going to be doing something more practical later on. That if you've got a child who wants to do maybe an apprenticeship, there's often a little maths test as part of the interview process. I've had sons who have gone for apprenticeships and apply for apprenticeships, and if they get past the initial kind of application stage, they get invited in for an kind of a test, and it tests basic literacy and math skills. And the kinds of questions that are being asked are those everyday math skills that we'd be looking at this functional skills level. So it's a really good qualification for struggling maths learners to give them that something that to go forward with to a college or a employer, and also so that working on those skills that if they do come to a point when they're trying to apply for jobs, apprenticeships or colleges, they've learnt these kind of real life math skills.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a recognised as a maths qualification. Can it gain what kind of jobs, college applications can it be? How is it equivalent to GCSEs? Does it gain access to colleges, etc.?
Yeah, it does. It is definitely worth checking though.
Mhm.
If your teenager knows what kind of courses they would like to do at sixth form, giving the colleges a ring, dropping an email, just checking they will accept it. Um, so my daughter wants to do something at an agricultural college, and I've already checked with them, and they're going to accept functional maths and functional English, which is great. However, I did tutor somebody who couldn't use functional maths to get to his level three electrical course. So he had to get the GCSE. So we were trying
Yeah.
really hard to try and get him through his GCSE
Mhm.
foundation. So yeah, but there's going to be a lot of courses, yeah, that will take it. But yeah,
So the one that we're doing is functional maths level 2. And as we said, as Judy said, for some courses or some qualifications, for some colleges, for some jobs, it will be viewed equivalent to the GCSE C grade, a passing grade at GCSE. But as Judy said, you really need to kind of do that legwork to find out if that's going to work for whatever your child is looking to pursue. Can you do the functional skills and then progress into either IGCSE or GCSE maths afterwards?
yeah, I think that's a good option. So that's actually what I'm doing with my daughter. So we've done functional, and we're hoping to sit it, or she's hoping to sit it in July. Um, and then we've just started to work through the foundation content with the hope that she could sit that maybe next summer. So there's going to be a bit of crossover. But yeah, we're kind of doing it so she's got that functional maths. But if we can get the GCSE as well, that will be an added bonus. That's the way we're kind of thinking of it. Yeah, but her college have said they'll accept the functional to get her to the next level anyway.
So it's also a good idea, even just for a confidence booster.
Yeah, yeah,
For children who are really struggling, think they can't, that idea of they feel that they'll never be able to get a GCSE maths, that if they do this, look, you've managed to get a qualification in maths and as a stepping stone up, and it also gives them extra time. A lot of struggling maths learners, just extra time for them to mentally mature can make a big difference
Yeah.
in helping them to tackle some of these more tricky maths concepts that you encounter at GCSE. What does the functional skills level 2 cover?
Yeah, so the function is going to have sort of some of the basic things. So it's going to have your multiplying and dividing and order of operations, and but then you're going to have things like area and 3D shapes and surface area and plans and volume and probability and things like that in it. So a lot of the stuff that should have been covered in Key Stage 3 as well,
Hmm.
but try and give it that practical element as well, which is great.
Yeah. And I think I know for my own son, one of my sons is now is pursuing a really practical course at college and looking at apprenticeship. And he'd be doing maths. I'm never going to use this. I'm never going to use. And he's using it at college. He's having to use things like calculating the perimeter of things and working and using calculations to work things out. And it's like, and he's using it in his work setting. So these skills at this level are applicable to everyday working environments for so many jobs. And
Yeah.
jobs you wouldn't even think about it. Whether it's a shop and you're having to do change and work with money, or if you've got a business doing nails and you're having to do your calculate your hourly rates and your expenditure and do you just working with that money and all these different things that come up in running a business, or if you're being a plumber or a painter and decorator, and you're having to measure things and calculate how much supplies you need. There's all these real life maths come in so many different, vastly different works and trades. So it's really good course for our teens who want to go down those practical career paths. So GCSE maths or IGCSE maths, they take 2 years to cover the content. Is this the same with functional skills level 2?
No, I think functional skills can be done in 1 year. I mean, for some people, they could do it in less. But yeah, obviously, for a struggling student, they might want to spend 2 years doing it. We're going to aim to cover the whole content in 1 year.
Hmm.
Um, then, if your student is still struggling, they might want a bit of time just to kind of consolidate some things they'd
Hmm.
learned, some more practice before you put them in. I mean, you can put them in at the center that we use roughly every month, so you can really time their exam for when they're ready as well, which is great.
Oh, I never realized it. So there's multiple sittings of the
Yeah,
exam.
there's multiple sittings of it. Yeah, so I mean that makes it great for resits as well. You don't have to wait months and months to resit if they've just narrowly failed or something.
Hmm.
You can then do a bit more practice and then sit it the following month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. So that's for for families who you're trying to do this, you we can be in close communication. Judy can be advising you so you're not paying money on something that they're not ready for. That's something that they'll be able to be keeping track, saying, are you really ready to sit this exam? Give it another month, give another 2 months, maybe come back to another 6 months of it again. There's that flexibility that has with
Yeah.
this qualification that isn't there with the GCSE. Well, that's really interesting to know, and it's so good to know there is a qualification out there that is recognised, which has the equivalent to GCSE, but is accessible for those who struggle with maths. Um, Thank you so much, Judy. And as always, if anyone has any questions, please just drop us an email, arise@arisehomeeducation.com.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Emma. Thanks.